base layer nylon that you can swap out in a dry pair and then go right back to it. That's the fail-safe. Just always have a pair of those.
You could mix and match too. If you,
wrapped dry in your bag.
These get baked, then you can just stick your hand in here and put the mitt over the top, or get rid of that and put this in, put the mitt over the top of that, or what? Use socks. I've used socks before. Whatever it takes. So that's the glove system. All right. So then, first aid kit, gaiters. These are somewhat robust, and we only use these type, at least me I should say, only use these type about half the year when there's lots of snow on the ground, right? Well, you can get away with shorties and soft shell type gaiters really easily in the Sierra. So, but it is winter, so. All right, now let's talk about socks for a second here. Oh, I got my other socks over there. So the liner sock that we were talking about in the car is like a really thin sock that almost is as thin as a dress sock, and then you want to have another sock on top of that. And then your mountaineering boots on top of that, of course. And then your gaiters. There is actually a left and a right on gaiters, and there's also a front and the back. So this one happens to be the left because this buckle's on the outside, and if it's made by OR, and usually the other companies follow suit. And these things take a lot of abuse, so to make mine last, I just keep wrapping them in tape. Every couple months I put another layer. There's about 8 wraps on here that have all been worn off over talus over the last couple of years. But this is what's going to blow first, I promise you. So, especially all the talus and rock we go through. So.
What about the holes we pinch with the crampons?
What about what?
The holes we pinch with the crampons.
Yeah. Yeah.
This helps.
Here's one thing just to realize. You're using gear in the mountains, it's going to get worn and busted. Just go with it, because it's rough. It's rough on gear. So this doesn't really make a lot of difference, but I like to put my gaiters on the inside and then put those on the outside. And this would be pretty beefy winter climbing kit right there. And then of course, crampons, if you have the right types of boots, where I would recommend you get someday, that would be those that have bails in at least the back, but in the front too, so you can get strap-ons and also clip-on crampons. And you want to have a nice mountaineering boot with a good stiff sole, right guys? And Vibram rubber, hopefully sticky if you can afford it, all the way around the toe for climbing rock. You want to have one with a flexible ankle so you can do that French technique. And
what have you done to your
what's that?
What have you done to your toes then?
I've repaired them.
Oh, okay.
This is me being thrifty. And then sometimes they've got these wedges. Many times they got these wedges to insulate your feet, and there's different weights of mountaineering boots. So we can get away with a light to mid-weight boot with careful care all the way through the whole year. These are not really winter boots. They're just like summer climbing boots with an extra wedge of insulation, and I use these for all my winter climbing.
Ice climbing those?
Yes, and Rainier and everywhere else I've ever been. But then, of course, a lot of what I'm telling you is based on my personal experience and not necessarily what you're going to experience, because I have warm feet and warm hands. So I don't have to go full hog lots of times. So that's that gear. That's clothing and some equipment. Let's get that stuff out of the way. All right, helmet, hard shell, not one of those bicycle style helmets. Okay, and then of course your what if kit, and which should only be probably these items. Headlamp, maybe sunscreen unless you bum off your partners like I do a lot. And if you're expecting to be out a long time, maybe a tiny bit of some niceties. And
what?
That's
and
that's probably it.
What about spare batteries?
No.
Parachute cord?
No.
Iodine tablets?
Maybe map and compass. That might be nice to have. So that's again. When I first started going out, I brought a huge kit of all the what if stuff. Yeah. I'll tell you someday about all the stuff I had in there. But nowadays, I believe that you don't want very much. But absolutely have a headlamp with you every time. Does not matter where.
And extra batteries?
No.
No extra batteries?
You know why? Because the headlamps that we can get nowadays will last, they'll burn for 3 days solid, and that's plenty enough time to get me out of a fix.
What
the problem is when you get to go on your trip, and you get ready, throw your light in there, it may have, 200 hours on those batteries already, and then That's what I've run into.
I
You know?
ran out of
Yeah.
batteries.
I haven't. But if I did, I would probably use my cell phone light, or I've hiked out with no light before because other people in the party do. I'm not saying you should not plan
Yeah.
because people in your party will pick up the slack for you.
We should
But
actually-
If that happens and you climb with other people, likely they have something that will help.
Yeah.
And I've been in that position before, and I've helped you guys too. So that's one of the great
I've
things
only
about
done that
climbing
one
in a
time.
group.
It's fun to practice walking out at night with no light.
It's very tough.
You know?
Oh,
Well, good. No, it's good to test your night vision. You know?
All right, so
Yeah.
let's see here. Okay.
I hiked out from the backside of Cathedral one night through the brush. Where there was no
I'm
fun.
videotaping you.
So
Videotaping.
this is a standard axe. You know that because the way the pick is drooped, and it's got this adze on the back for chopping steps. Plus it's straight and it's tall, and it's meant to be used as a cane. It can also be used in self-arrest position, which I'll teach you today, and a couple other great things. And as long as you keep it sharp and file it down, you can climb some pretty steep stuff with the standard axe. And they're very useful for lots of things, not just going up snow. If you have to go into ice or more technical terrain at some point, you're going to want to get a shorter axe, the technical pick, and probably a hammer. So that this would be stage 1 and this would be stage 2, adze and hammer, and then stage 3 would be 2 technical tools of probably identical manufacturer, one with an adze and one with a hammer, and probably upgrade your crampons too at that point. But so a lot of the stuff we do doesn't get any tougher than 2 tools. One mountain axe and one other technical axe. And sometimes, maybe about half the time, I do carry another axe with me because, as it turns out, it really helps you to go up the slope quickly because you've got an axe in each hand. You can face the slope directly, and unless it's just stupid flat, it's nice to have another axe because you don't have to worry about traversing and switchbacking and all that. You just go right up it. The other cool thing about it is that if you ever get into tough terrain or you find a situation to climb into terrain that looks a little fun, you can do it because you've got your technical tool with you. It really doesn't weigh that much. So I'm bringing both of them. Castle Peak really doesn't warrant anything like this, but I'm bringing it because I just want you guys to see another tool, and we can pound pickets if we ever find a chance for it. That's it. So this is a picket. This is kind of a stand-in for an axe shaft. That's probably where the idea came from, and we pound this in like a huge tent stake and clip our rope and our partners to it sometimes. You don't need to get one that's any longer than this. 2 feet's plenty long. We actually carry hacked off 1.5 pickets often, just for the super what-if lightweight option.
Those pickets, you can use them as a belay device. I mean, they'll do.
No, not a blade device. You can use them as the point of protection.
Okay.
So
You can use them as a belay device. Well, not the
well,
device, but
I guess you could.
Oh, well,
Well,
That's not what I meant.
as an anchor.
As an anchor. I mean, but you can put
Oh.
a full. You use it for a full body weight.
Absolutely. If
Okay.
it's built right.
Okay.
And no. If it's not built right.
We'll use them for rescue loads, which is a person in a litter and 2 litter attendants.
But you don't rely on just one picket, do you?
Yeah, you can.
You could. Well, it depends on
If conditions
if
are
it's
right.
if really hard to pound in and it's icy hard like asphalt. That one will probably do the trick. But no, we would never rely on just one.
And we'll talk about this somewhat, but this isn't really the venue for that. But you can bury them this way, and you can pound them in this way if the snow's right. You can pound them behind rocks. You can do all kinds of. You can pound them in line. So it's just another big, beefy piece of protection that we use in snow. So that's
and ditto the ice axe.
yeah. And these are kind of interchangeable. Like everything you can do with this, you can do with that. And another reason why I would also bring a second tool, because it's got a hammer on it. For many years I convinced myself I could hammer it in with this, or maybe with this, and I tried it, and it's really tough.
It's
And
rough on the pickets.
It's rough on the pickets, it's rough on you. It's just easier. If you're going to be using pickets anyway, chances are you probably would like to have a second tool. So that's the conclusion I came to. Alright, so then we go to harness, and which is that one. That's the harness. And there's not much to show you here other than the fact that you need it to be small and compact, and doesn't need a lot of padding because you're usually wearing clothes. And one great thing about mountaineering harnesses you want to think about is the fact that you can take it on and off without removing your boots or your pants or anything else. So it's got this this part here that clips up in front, so you can take it down for the call of the wild or whatever, taking it on and off. And I also like to get this little add-on for my ice axe, the holster, and I cut one of my loops off in the back so it could fit. So that's the harness, and then aside from that, your personal equipment that you mix and match. The next thing you'll probably want to have always, especially if you have a true mountaineering harness, is a large, very large locking carabiner that'll fit in the front right here. Something that is as big and as useful as you can get. Don't worry about weight. You want something that's massive. You can also use it for belay anchors where you got all these snow and webbing in the way. So I carry one big monster, and then the other ones I carry are more moderate, like the Petzl attaché, which are kind of D-shaped pair carabiners with locking gates. And there's a lot to say about that, but what's that?
And it's nice that it's rounded for windsurfage.
Definitely. That's why I like that one. And then, so I use my big locker. I have at least 2 other lockers for my belay, and then because I often bring up seconds, I need to have another locker. So I carry 3 lockers and a belay device. And then, you know, this depends on how much equipment you really are willing to haul out there, but I also like to carry a personal leash, which is a piece of webbing that can be girth hitched around my harness and can be attached to my anchor, to my ice axe, to a buddy, whatever. And it's just my personal little safety connection to the world. But I often do not climb with my leash on. It's always stowed in my harness until if or when I need it. So that's kind of my minimum. Some of my extra gear that I would bring along, depending on how skittish I was about the route or if I thought I needed it, I would definitely have at least one double length sling with me. And double length means that it's 48 inches, so it's about 4 feet, okay? Or if you put it over your shoulder, you can double it up before it gets to be the right length. A single length would be, of course, half that, and I like to have them 2 different colors so that I don't get them mistaken. And this is the one that you've probably seen all over the place. It's only 24 inches long, okay? Less useful in mountaineering. Okay, less useful. You really would be better served by having this length for so many different reasons. For anchors and for personal leashes, and it's just nice to have this length, and if you don't need it, then you can just double it up, and now it's the same size as that single length. And they do cost a little more, but I think over the years I've become a fan of this piece of equipment, and it's so lightweight that you really can't go wrong bringing a couple of these, but one would be the minimum. And when you go to, what's kind of funny about mountaineering is that you want to have super beefy, big lockers with easy to manipulate gates so you can use them with gloves and so on. But I prefer going to the other end of the spectrum for non-lockers because the only thing I ever do with them is clip webbing. And so I get tiny, teeny wire gate, super lightweight, full strength beaners like this. And that's also, of course, saves you weight. So that's what I would carry there. Then prusik cords, you can make your own or you can buy them. But I've gotten lazy, and so I have a manufactured set now. But this little set is actually cool because they came in 2 different lengths. So one of them is about the size of a single, and I use this. It's rounded for a good reason because it can be wrapped around rope, and I can use it for rescue, other people or myself. And
so it's 8 mil?
I think it's probably 7. What do you think? Take a look at it. It doesn't feel like 8 to me.
Yeah.
And then my other one is a little longer. So, yeah. And then I'm bringing in a bunch of other what-if stuff just because I'm going to have to build anchors and so on. But probably the only other thing you might bring occasionally, depending on who you're climbing with, is a cordelette, which is probably 8 or 7 millimeter cord that's about 15 to 20 feet long that we use for stringing together a whole bunch of pieces of protection and building an anchor with multiple pieces. And it also turns out to be fabulously useful for bollards, for for short roping people, for short technical sections where you need a rope, don't want to break out the big bad boy, and also for slinging boulders and horns. And the bigger the better usually. This is just about perfect size. I find that if I wrap it around me 3 or 4 times, that's about the right size for a cordelette. So 3 times for this one. So yeah.
So that's what, 25 you said? Or 20?
I think this one's 20. So that's it for that.